So last night, let's show this here, which is the video of well, tell us about that world exclusive last night, and then I'll get to the grab. Apologies.
So the World Health Organization and its investigators have maintained that there were no bats housed in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This is, of course, the major laboratory in Wuhan that's, the world premiere facility for bat coronaviruses in the same city where the virus COVID-19 started. World Health Organization investigators like Peter Daszak said it was a conspiracy theory to suggest that there were bats at this laboratory. He said, we don't capture bats, we sample them and then release them. This was in a series of tweets in December 2020. The World Health Organization, when it went into Wuhan early this year, did not ask the scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology whether they kept bats in their facility at all, and their report only mentioned that there was an animal center for primates. Now, Paul, this is a crucial question because it goes to the potential origin of the virus. There's been a lot of discussion about how a virus that originates in bats could have traveled all the way from the southwestern province of China, where the virus with the closest genetic sequence identity to SARS-CoV-2 was found in a bat in caves in the Yunnan province. How that could have got all the way to Wuhan if it was a natural virus without leaving any outbreaks along the way. So if there were bats from this region, and the bats haven't been identified yet in the laboratory, it is relevant. Last night, we got the vision that proves it.
Well, and also part of that too is that one of the people who was working in and around that thing is called, colloquially known as the Bat Lady. Here's part of what you showed last night.
实证力研究团队10年如一日，在我国及非洲多地采集15000余份蝙蝠样品，追踪 SARS 病毒源头，并分离出多种新型病毒。
So, what was the value of the Bat Lady in the Wuhan Institute of Virology?
The key point in the vision we found last night was that there were bats in cages at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. There's another, this was footage from the Chinese Academy of Sciences. It was produced in May 2017 when the facility had just finished, when it was ready to launch. There's also footage of a scientist feeding a bat with a worm. So there were definitely bats in the facility. This goes to the heart of how the pandemic may have started. Was it a natural virus that somehow a worker who was dealing with these bats became infected? Or was it a virus, that came from a bat that was then subject to dangerous gain-of-function research, gain-of-function experiments at the laboratory? Those experiments were happening, and many of them were being funded by the NIH, under the direction of Anthony Fauci, who secretly had lifted the ban on gain-of-function research in the US as well. But even when the ban was in place, the money was flowing through a sub-grant to the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Now, stay there because I want to ask you one more question. But Matt Canavan, the Bat Lady and the CSIRO, what piqued your interest here?
Well, Paul, in some respects, I'm just basking in the glow of the amazing work that Shari has been doing. I took up some of the issues she's uncovered in the Senate. If only Shari could be there as a senator and ask them, it probably would have been much more effective. But I asked them about the work that they'd done with the Wuhan Institute, and quite honestly, Paul, the CSIRO's answers were not fulsome at the time. They tried to say that, the only work we've done with Wuhan was around the Hendra virus, or they suggested that was the only work they'd done, when in fact there's a paper I've had sent to me from 2010 where CSIRO researchers are working with the Bat Lady and Wuhan Institute scientists to look at coronaviruses from bats they'd captured and were working on in Geelong in Australia, and they were testing to see which coronavirus types would most likely infect humans. Now, I'll stress it wasn't gain-of-function research as such, but it is a major collaboration between the CSIRO and the Wuhan Institute. And we need answers here. We need to get to the bottom of what happened here, because I think Shari has uncovered the greatest scientific scandal of all time. Millions of people have died. And their families deserve answers about how this happened and how can we make sure this does not happen again.
Well, here's part of that questioning that took place in the Senate.
What was the research? What exactly was the research done in Geelong with the Chinese scientist? I think this is the Xi Li, who is otherwise known as Bat Lady in some reports. What research was conducted in Geelong by the CSIRO?
At which stage we noted that we don't undertake research on live bats at ACDP, and that so we made that statement clear in relation to it. We noted that we did rely on research from overseas in relation to bats to undertake zoonotic research as well in that regard. So happy to provide a copy of that statement to you.
So what's open-ended for you about that, Matt? What's the obvious question that you still have? Now, again, we're not talking about Australia having a direct connection to the Wuhan lab. Come on, we're not into that. But what is the key detail you think the CSIRO needs to serve up?
Well, again, Paul, the answer there is quite shifty because the CSIRO said they did not do research on live bats at Geelong, and then they mentioned, we rely on bat research that's done overseas, indicating that they don't do any research almost on bats in Australia, when in fact, again, there's a paper that CSIRO scientists in conjunction with scientists from the Wuhan Institute, a separate paper from what I was talking about before, which included them capturing bats, I think in Queensland from memory, but capturing bats in Australia, transporting them alive to this Geelong facility, this CSIRO facility, and yes, they euthanized them there, but they weren't really forthcoming with the Senate there about exactly what they've been up to. And this is where these questions arise here about what has the scientific community across the world, not just in China, been up to here, and what have they been hiding from us? And they've been using the same tactics we see from the climate scientists, calling anyone like Shari who's calling them to question them, calling them conspiracy theorists, they're crazy, when actually now that we've uncovered a lot of this stuff, there's a real issue here that scientists, unfortunately, were actively involved in trying to hide over the past year.
Good on you, mate, and good on you for standing up in that situation in Biloela as well. Shari, what's your take on what Matt's just said in the questioning that he had for the CSIRO?
Well, the CSIRO misled Parliament, misled the Senate, and misled Matt Canavan. I had to correct the record on it. They provided correspondence to Matt Canavan and to all the senators on that committee, admitting that actually they had done research on live bats, as their scientific papers state, as Matt just referred to. The live bats were flown from Queensland to Victoria for dissection, for research with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. We're bringing this report in the Australian in the coming days because they have had to formally correct the record on this. Their evidence was misleading. There is an extensive history between the Wuhan Institute of Virology and CSIRO and Australian government funding. Wow. This is dating back over a decade. Xi Li, in fact, came and worked for several months at the CSIRO at the Geelong Institute, the Australian Animal Health Laboratory.
The bat lady.
Yes. This was my very early report.
That's right.
In April last year. It was front page of the Daily Telegraph, and Media Watch attacked me over it. Her number two, Peng Zhu, we trained, Australian taxpayer funding trained Peng Zhu. We have a long history. There are many research projects that have been done in conjunction with the CSIRO and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Some of them we haven't yet published yet. Matt and I have been working on this together, and there is a story coming up in the Australian just on how extensive this research collaboration is. But we've been reporting on this for over a year now. The question here is, why is gain-of-function research that was banned under the Obama administration and only lifted by Anthony Fauci with no permission from anyone in the Trump administration, why is that still legal in Australia? This is something that took me over a month, while I was writing my book. This took me over a month to get a proper answer from Greg Hunt from the Health Minister's office. I got sent the run around. Eventually, they released a statement that admitted gain-of-function research is allowed in Australia. This is research that many scientists internationally, they formed a group called the Cambridge Working Group. They have objected to this research. They say there is of no benefit. It has never been shown to cause a pandemic. But On the other hand, it can create these dangerous new viruses that never existed in nature before. And if there is a laboratory leak, and we know lab leaks are extremely common, even in the top world-class facilities, accidents happen. People aren't robots. Mistakes happen. And so that actually the greater risk is of causing a pandemic.